Hey traders, Raghee here. Welcome to Charts and Coffee for Friday. What is today? The 29th? All right. It's just day after Apple and Amazon earnings. That's what it is. So welcome. Great to see you all. Happy Friday, everybody. All right. So we have the post. Finally, we're done with the fangs. And if you've been following the free videos over at the Simpler Trading YouTube channel, you know that the importance of FANG stocks to all three of the indices is why XLK, XLC, XLY are so disproportionately important, and why Amazon and Apple, number one weighted stock, and XLK, number one weighted stock, and XLY respectively, are just so darn important. And then you think about the way tech is the number one weighted sector in the NASDAQ, of course, the number one weighted sector in the S&P, and number two in the Dow, and you realize, the emphasis on tech, as I like to remind everybody, this isn't Charles Dow's Dow anymore, right? This is a very different composition of these sectors and stocks that are heavily weighted in the indices that we trade and track. So important to get beyond these releases so we can finally get a feel for what we're dealing with. And in yesterday's free video, which you can check out over at the Simpler Trading YouTube channel, and I love the title because I was sitting here in the office with Trish and we were going over some of the content for the Countdown Trader newsletter, which if you haven't checked out, definitely do. It's literally a brain dump of techniques and indicators and analysis. And so we were looking at Apple. I was telling her what I was seeing, and she says, Apple picking season isn't over yet. And I said, yeah, it's exactly true. I think this notion that, okay, now the markets are just going to dump, I don't see that. I'm not really seeing that when I'm taking a look at the way Apple responded, because if you watch the video, you'll notice that we use a combination of implied volatility and historical volatility. Implied volatility, I believe, was 4.4 in Apple. Historical volatility was 6. I rely on historical volatility more than I rely on implied volatility. And so that's where +6, -6 from about 152 and change where we ended was what I was looking for. And sitting at 147 is well within that. This is not a panic move in Apple. We'll see if it's a gap and go or something like that. But this is not a panic move in Apple, and that's not going to translate to some panic in XLK. And I don't think this is necessarily what's going to cause. It could be a stall, but I don't think it's what is going to cause ultimately the rollover in the NAS. But we will see. We can only measure the market by these measuring sticks that we have, and implied volatility, more so historical volatility, are really key for me. So with that being said, that is the morning. Great to see everybody. And jumping into our first question, how can we break down major sectors, major sector ETFs, to find which parts are outperforming? Donald, I use this layout. It's about as old school, awesome as it gets. I look at the heavily weighted stocks. I align them in within this grid, within this layout, and then I put some really basic indicators to work. Grab, wave, JT multi, and that's how I do the relative outperformance. And by the way, in an environment where we do have a number of downtrends too, or bearish environments, relative outperformance is directional. I can have a really good best example double red downtrend, and I can have a really good sort of best example double green uptrend. So I'm looking for relative performance both bullishly and bearishly, and it's that layout that I use to do it. And you've all probably seen that in the futures room, of course, and in the sector secrets mastery, and in the options room. You've probably seen that layout. That's what I use. That's what I use. And in fact, in the class that we just did, the ETF formula class, that's, again, we have a slight tweak to the layout, but that's exactly what I use. All right, so next up is what world and domestic factors are influencing natural gas and crude oil going forward? Okay, I could get bogged down in some of the minutia of EIA, IEA numbers, output increases in OPEC. But at the end of the day, and this is not to be simplistic, this is to be effective and clear, it's just supply and demand. So I think there are more demand. Well, no, I actually think there's more of a supply narrative in that OPEC is incrementally increasing output. We heard that OPEC Plus, which is Russia, was actually exceeding the production outputs. Whoopsie. So there's that. But nonetheless, this is overall an uptrend. So what if we are technicians and even more so chartists, that means that we believe what's known about the market, even things that we may not know, which, believe me, that list as a retail trader is always going to be longer than the things that we do know. So the things that we do not know are actually priced into the symbol. So I'm just going to rely on the fact that this is a really good uptrend. It's pulling back from yesterday's strength. I'll probably look to day trade it today. And overall, wow, it is really pulling back pretty hard today. And as far as news, I'm actually looking at one of my other screens. As far as news, I'm not really seeing much. But don't be surprised if we see a fade. I might start looking for an intraday fade on this. One of my favorite things to do Monday, Wednesday, Friday with the Sector Secrets folks when I'm there is to look at those zero-dated options and day trade them. We did that yesterday. Crude was a big winner for us yesterday. So, well, I should say the notes that I shared in both the futures room and the Sector Secrets Mastery. So we might be looking at that intraday again. End of day, I'll tell you this, end of day, okay, this is still possibly a dip pullback opportunity to the October VWAP. So I'll definitely keep an eye on that. Thanks for the question. All right, next up is XLI. Sure, Michael. So remember where XLI lands in the industrials, and it's not even the first or second weighted sector. Isn't that hilarious? The Dow Industrials are heavily weighted by financials and tech. Somewhere, Charles Dow is out there face palming because, this is such a different creature now. Anyway, that being said, it's starting to creep into maybe some bullish movement. But if you've been following the free videos, I've been trying to really embrace conversations about the long side of the market and the short side of the market, because both are relevant right now, both the long and the short side. And that's because we're in chop. When the broader indices are in chop, the thing to remember ultimately is that if we have broader indices in chop, that means there are going to be sectors and stocks that are bearish. I'm just looking at some of my other screens right now. We're getting a lot of volatility pre-market at the moment. But there's going to be some that are downtrends. There are going to be some that are uptrends. There are going to be some that are just not trending. And XLI would fall into that category of not trending. There's your resistance, and you have support at the Darvi, and you have support at the 200, which I don't ignore that one. Keep an eye on it. So inside the range, yeah, it's, you can try to find things inside the range, but your best opportunities are going to come at the upper edge and at the lower edge. So your edge is at the edge. That's the way that I've always described and taught distribution. We have a range bound market. There's overbought, there's oversold, and we just presume that that range is going to hold until it doesn't. And remember that distribution, the support and resistance is not solid. It's quite soft. It's quite elastic. And so, don't be surprised to see slightly higher highs or slightly lower lows before we just get like a vacuum sucked back into the range. So XLI is just waiting for the price to get up into the top of the range, which arguably we did on October 25. Okay, Michael. So that was an inflection point. It was one of two levels of resistance. You can consider that sort of the more aggressive overbought level. And if you've got multiple overbought levels, consider using some sort of oscillator, stochastic. I like stochastics, ready aim fire, of course. I'll use a combination of V-score and ready aim fire or V-score and stochastic to find those edges. So you've got a price-based assessment and a volume-based assessment. So thanks for the question. All right. So yes, absolutely, Michael. End of month and end of month shenanigans are usually, well, they're shenanigans. So yeah, end of month definitely has a very specific psychology to it. Redemptions are usually sort of the overarching cycle, seasonal, if you want to call it that. But we are looking at, again, the aftermath of Apple and Amazon, which, look, Amazon's been a mess all year long. We can't blame Amazon for anything. It's been chopping around. When I see this thing sitting down near, say, for example, the 200, not that that's been a line in the sand, but Amazon's in chop. So I'm not looking at Amazon moving lower as this disaster, because it's been all over the place all year. And Apple is actually not that. I mean, Apple didn't even move beyond the historical volatility. So I don't look at these as huge bearish moves at all, at least what we're seeing at 9:12 a.m. Eastern this morning. All right. Next up is, let's see here. When doing your watch list building, how do you keep track and rank potential candidates for a trade when there are many choices? Yeah, write them down. Tim, yeah, write them down. If there are many, remember, one of the things that is often overlooked on a giant watch list, let's say, I'll scan up to 200 names every weekend, and all 200 of them are not going to have setups. Okay, so let's say that gets us down to 75 that looks good. And that's not an unusual drop from scan to what has a setup. Of those, say, 75, there's another layer, right? How many are even close to the trigger? So that next layer of priority is proximity. We may have a setup, but it may be nowhere near. Now, what's nowhere near? Let's say I'm 2 to 3 daily price movements away. It's going to take quite a few sessions. So I'll keep an eye on it, but I know likely an entry is not imminent. So a lot of times the determining factor is which one's trigger, right? So if it hasn't triggered, there's nothing to do. So yes, there will be a lot of names that I am watching that haven't yet triggered. And there'll be quite a few names that I would love to see trigger that are nowhere near in terms of proximity in such a way that it makes sense for me to spend time and attention, focusing too much. I'll just come back to them every day till that space, that chasm between where it is now and where I'd like to do something with it just starts to narrow. All right. So next up is, do I think we can break the resistance of the VIX? Look, the VIX sits down at an oversold level. Are we going to break resistance? I mean, that's sort of my bet. Down at the lower end of the range, I can't short, especially in chop. So I am looking for that. VXX calls are a very inexpensive way to play this. So I'm not in VX futures. I've played them before, but I don't very often. So that being said, I'd like to think so. We know what it is, right, Darren? We can definitely see that October VWAP just coming right down, swooping over top of all those wicks, can't we? All right. Tom asks, Friday thoughts on FXE and TLT? Well, Friday thoughts specifically rather than longer term. I want to fade the weakness in the dollar, and that means fading the strength in the euro. So not if you're wondering what the heck happened here, euro, the euro moved based on that European Central Bank meeting yesterday. So we could wait for a minor high. We could wait for an inside day and play this on Monday or Tuesday, or we can look to fade the move. And I'm going to be prioritizing the fade on dollar weakness. I want to fade dollar weakness. I want to fade that euro strength. As far as TLT goes, I'll tell you this. I was mentioning this to Lorna, and I might have talked a little bit about this in the mastery, which was, I put it in my notes, I believe. So IEF, I mean, I will say I'm probably, and this is where I'll call myself out. I'm probably a little too distracted by ZB when I really should be focusing on ZN, 30 versus 10-year bond futures. So ZB is probably going to be fine, but that ZN has much better structure. So we talk about prioritization. ZN looks better. I mean, ZB looked fine too, but ZN, subsequent to this rip higher on the 27th, ZN looks better. So this is kind of pitting, diverting my attention possibly away from TLT, which I am short. And I really should be keeping an eye on IEF. And I think IEF is one of those names that, I will be more vigilant about going forward, because just the structure of ZN is superior to the structure of TLT since the 27th. All right. Next up, what's the white? Oh, that's a ring light. That's a ring light. We were cutting some video here in the office yesterday. Yeah. Can the cat jump through that? I haven't asked him to, and if I ask him to, of course, the answer is going to be no. I'm sure he could. I think he'd rather just knock it down. Being my cat, he's a little bit more. Well, he's a cat. Does whatever he wants. He's the king. That's what I call him. He's the king. But no, it's just a ring light. Is X a buy now? Take a look at X. All right. X a buy now. So we've got this earnings situation, right? So I would not say X is anything. Let's get past earnings. If you were looking for a 1, 2, 3, it's already happened, but it happened inside of that 14-day window to earnings. So this line, this kind of orange looking line, there we go. Let's make it yellow. That actually the beginning of the 14-day should really be more yellow. And then, this is where, that's the big day, right? So now after earnings, I'll look at it, but the 1, 2, 3, if that's what you're wondering, the 1, 2, 3 reversal, 1, 2, very quick, 3, boom. And then here's where it takes the resistance out right in here. So that trade kind of already happened very quickly, but that is the 1, 2, 3. But inside this window of 14 days, I'm usually not interested. After earnings, we can reconsider what's going on. And if we end up retesting this level, now remember, it was once resistance, now it's support. So that could be a level, depending on how earnings responds. That could be a level that, and you can see where we are, right? So I'm kind of mocking out something that isn't going to be a case, because it's way the heck up here. So no, is it a buy now? Oh gosh, no, definitely not. Not for me. I mean, way up here. So that's X. All right, next question is, I'll take this last one here, and then we are out of time. BLDR. How you doing, Deborah? Do I like BLDR as a pullback buy? 100%. And then what I would also say is, when we start looking at BLDR, what we can start asking ourselves is, what sector ETF is BLDR a part of? And then start looking for more boats that might have this kind of structure. So good eye, Deborah. All right, as always, great to see you all. And I will talk with you on Monday. I'll see my mastery folks in the room. I'm just going to be in the general chat here on the open. We'll take a look at what's going on, some zero dated Friday options. And then my futures folks, I will be on the mic. I'll be in the room for the close our Friday Ask Me Anything, open mic, if you will, Q&A. So great to see you all. And I will see you on Monday. What am I doing for Halloween? Andrew, I'll tell you what, I don't know if there's such a thing as Grinch for Halloween. I don't like Halloween. I really don't like it. I don't understand the scary stuff. I'm not as scary. I love Thanksgiving. I actually, 4th of July is awesome. I don't like Halloween. I don't like it. So I don't, not one bit. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to hand out candy to the cute little ones that show up, right at dusk, and then hope the doorbell doesn't ring. Yeah, that's it. And I think, we try to put a movie on. So maybe we'll watch Dune. I don't know if anyone's seen Dune. If you have, no spoilers, but I'm hoping it's good. It looks amazing. Looks amazing. So yeah, probably watching Dune. All right. Be good to each other. I'll see you on Monday.